you. Just going to put that there for an emergency, not from the sponsor. So thank you. You're here to hear me talk about the path to low impact and high experience. If you really looked in the program, you'd also see that it said climate-friendly hospitality, how luxury travel, I'm reading it myself, how luxury travel and hotel design can unlock climate solutions. So I wonder what you're hoping for. Thank you so much for all of you who've come. I wonder what you're hoping for by being here. What are you going to learn? Are you here for your own travels, to get advice or inspiration? Are you here for business? Perhaps you're thinking about which boxes you need to tick for ESG. ESG, it's not so fashionable a term anymore, but it's important what it represents. Maybe you're here because of new legislation. I have to say, China is doing a great job at passing laws which makes it mandated to actually care about the climate more, certainly through design and construction. I mean, you know, we're in the Sustainability Summit. This is a talk about sustainability. It's a talk about climate. How do you feel when I talk about climate and I say that? A question I have for you: have you got sustainability fatigue? I know I have. I'm a bit bored of hearing it spoken about. Can we admit that? It's true. When I started focusing on sustainability and talking about it back in 2015, I would say, now I hope this is going to translate well, you're my first ever audience in China. Sustainability is a bit like teenage sex. They're all talking about it. Not that many are doing it. And those that are doing it aren't doing it that well. Did that translate? Sustainability's become a buzzword. People talk about it like a trend. Sustainability isn't a trend because the nature of a trend is it's going to go out of fashion. Sustainability is here to stay. The truth is, I don't even really like the word sustainability. It means so many different things to so many different people. It can mean whatever you want it to mean. And in a way, it kind of means nothing. But I am happy that it's in the mainstream. We're all talking about sustainability. We all have to talk about it. For some people, it means, certainly in the travel industry, sustainability represents something costing more. It shouldn't, but that's what it might mean. Or it might mean, certainly in luxury travel, it means cutting comfort. It means less convenience. So let's think about low impact. What does that mean? It means decarbonization. It means lower carbon footprint. It means less waste. It means relying less on natural resources out there. We don't want sustainability to cost more. The thing is, it doesn't have to. It's the CapEx, OpEx conversation. You know, the capital expenditure, the short-term investment versus the long-term. If you're a hotel, the OpEx, the operational costs, we all know it makes business sense to be sustainable. We just need to be more long-termist in our views. What we really want, and this is how I think about sustainability, minimizing negative impact, maximizing positive impact. What does that mean? It means regenerating nature. Maybe this summit will be called the Regeneration Summit in years to come. It means regenerating local communities. All of this is interconnected. I thought I'd give you an example that really brings it home about sustainable design. Potato Head. It's a beach club in Bali in Indonesia. They have a hotel. When they started, the hotel was called Katamama. Now it's called Potato Head Suites. So when they created this hotel, they used all these beautiful, beautiful bricks. The significance of these bricks, it's the perfect example, is that they were the bricks typically used to make temples. But of course, less temples were being built. That meant a whole village that specialized in these bricks, didn't have any work. So Ronald Akili, he's the owner of Potato Head. He commissioned, it's probably the PR story, 1 million bricks, but let's say 1 million bricks to create his hotel. That completely uplifted the economy of an entire village. And it made these bricks desirable. That's the power of design. That's the interconnectedness. For me, sustainability, it's still about P&L. P&L, this is so echoey. It's about profit and loss. The difference is it's not just money. It's the profit and loss to nature, the profit and loss to communities. So let me ask you, are you thinking enough about impact? Are you really? We're all here at the Sustainability Summit. Are we thinking about impact enough? Have you properly paused? Every time you have to make a decision, do you really think, how can I make a decision that is going to result in more positive impact? Do you really? I know, I do my best, but sometimes I don't think enough. Are you here for inspiration? No pressure on me. We need to think about why. That's what we need to think about. We need to think about why we're having this conversation. Certainly in travel. I work in the travel industry particularly. I'm also going to throw it out there that I have no timer at all, so I have no idea how long I'm talking for. Where am I looking? I don't see one. Anyway, let's hope I'm not going to talk too long. My sister is a politician, and she says, the less you say, the more they hear. So, 1 in 10 people is employed in tourism globally, right? 12% of the global economy is tourism. That includes hospitality, includes so many aspects. This design summit obviously includes many more sectors, but I come from travel. Yet there's still this huge disconnect between how serious the climate crisis is and business as usual. We all took a pause in the pandemic, and a lot of people woke up to how important it is to think about sustainability. And I think more people started to care. But as we came back, economic recovery, it went back to business as usual for a lot, not all. The famous poet Maya Angelou, American poet, she died 10 years ago. She said something that we quote a lot in hospitality. She said, people will forget what you said, they'll forget what you did, but they'll never forget how you made them feel, right? I hope you're going to remember a bit of what I say. That's the experience part, the feel, the feeling. Back to the path toward low impact, high experience travel. I sometimes notice, I just look at our world in travel, tourism. It's become all about the real estate, right? I mean, that's a big part of this community. But it's become all about the real estate. It's become about the stuff, the amenities, the facilities. I mean, that's how capitalism ticks. That's what this conference is about. Buying and selling. Let's be real. Buying and selling stuff. When you think about your travels and the most special memory you have, sure, there's lots of nice stuff. We take a picture, we share it. How does that make you feel? How does that really make you feel? The Greeks have a great, well, their word for hospitality in Greek, it's philoxenia. The love of a stranger, the kindness of strangers, philoxenia. That's what travel should be about. It's about people, connecting with people. I'm a journalist, I'm a communications consultant. I always look for every opportunity I can to share stories that make people feel something. You could say some of the best experiences are the ones that really tug on your heartstrings, make you feel something. What's even better when it comes to sustainability, if they can be sharing something that make people care about the climate, that they're going to then tell someone else. That's the power of exponential storytelling. That's what travel can be about. That's what it should be about. I know a bit about storytelling. LinkedIn tells me I've been a journalist for more than 30 years, but I know that's impossible to believe. In 2020, I was made sustainability editor of Condé Nast Traveler magazine. We have a magazine in China. My North Star is sharing stories to inspire impact. That's what gets me out of bed. I have a podcast, a website called Goodreads says I've edited and written 18 guidebooks. I work for the BBC, sharing travel information. Storytelling is what I do. But just because I'm a professional, it doesn't mean anything. We're all storytellers. Every single person in this room, every product that we share and use, all of this is about storytelling. The challenge is also with words, is we need them to mean something. It's hard not to talk in cliches in sustainability, but we've got to close that gap, the gap between intention, what we say, and action, what we do. We have to close the say-do gap. And I think one of the most powerful things we can do is to explain the why things matter, particularly in sustainability. I always think, how do we make people care? I hope I'm making you care. I'm not sure I am just yet. But how do we make people care about the climate? 8 billion people in the world. You have a lion's share of those. 8 billion people in the world, 4 billion already on the front line of the climate crisis. Or we can call it the climate emergency. We can call it climate chaos. We can call it climate collapse. We can call it climate catastrophe. But please, let's not call it climate change. Way too mild. That's what we usually say, climate change. It's worse than that. So what are the most powerful stories? And are you always listening? I'll tell you some of my favorite ones, certainly in travel, which really stand for that. 2006, I went to India. I stayed in CGH Earth hotels. They gave us a back-of-house tour. That's the perfect example of a low-impact, high experience. Back-of-house tour. We went behind the scenes. We saw how they captured rainwater. They used it, well, in my hotel, the Middle House, they also do that to flush the toilets here in Shanghai. They also showed us the renewable energy. They explained the why. It was amazing. It was so interesting. Cayuga hotels in Costa Rica. They're the sexiest hotels you could imagine. Infinity pools, so romantic. But behind the scenes, it was seeing how they managed their waste that I loved. It's fascinating. So it's down to us to be curious. Volvidons, that's a hotel group in Namibia. Again, they really explain that connection between their business and the wider ecology, the people, the community. My guide always, when I'm telling a story or when I'm making any decision, I think, how is this helpful? How is this helpful for nature? How is this helpful for the community? Or is my story just adding to the noise? Because there's a lot of information out there. It's a huge privilege to stand in front of audiences like this. When I think of all of you and the time that you represent and getting here, honestly, it's a great honor. I'm not here to promote anything. I'm not here to sell you anything. I am here just to say thank you for listening to me. Thank you for caring. Thank you for thinking more deeply about how we can have a greater effect. Just us as individuals, all of us, we can do better. Often people tell us a product is sustainable, or they tell us that something's good for the climate, but they don't show us. They don't explain the how or the why. That's where we all can do a lot better. That's where we can really bring it home why things matter. For me, when it comes to the why, I have my own way of remembering things. I use W's. So for me, I think about what are the biggest challenges or issues facing the world? And it's often not what we hear about the most. So the W's. Water. I went to COP, the United Nations Climate Summit in December in Dubai. And do you know, I did not hear one person talk about water, the water crisis. It's huge. I'm sure people did. I just didn't see or hear anyone. Only 2% of all the water in the world is fresh water. Doesn't that blow your mind? Some countries have run out. There are island nations, none left. Saudi, their aquifers are empty. They have to desalinize seawater. That requires more fossil fuels. They've got no shortage of that. But we have to think about these things. Why does it matter? Why does it matter when you go to a hotel that they care about water conservation? Why does it matter? So many reasons. How do we make people care? Another W. This is an absolute corker, as we say in England. So important. Wildlife, the wild, biodiversity. The biodiversity crisis is the flip side of the climate crisis. It is as important. Why aren't we hearing it all the time? Still today, most people, they know the word biodiversity. They've heard it. Ask them what it means, they'll be like, what does it mean? Biodiversity is all life on Earth, all species. Here we are talking about design. Think of the architecture. Think of how, if you have this complex design, imagine you just took one screw out or one joist, the whole thing would collapse. Seemingly insignificant species are part of our entire biodiversity and our ecosystem. Everything matters. That's how nature works. I always think, in a way, we know how important keystone species are, right? They're the ones that they don't always seem so important, but they play a really significant role. Bees. Bees are a keystone species. They pollinate. It's vital for everything to tick. You are keystone species. You are part of the design industry, or perhaps you have different roles. Who here is from a supplier? Who here is from a supplier? A few, okay. Who here is a designer, an actual designer? Designers? Yeah? Keystone species. How about people who work in hotels or travel? Does anyone here work in travel or the hotel industry? Yeah? You could be a keystone species in your ecosystem. It's so vital. And that's what we have to do, is just think, every decision we make, how is it actively helping nature? Waste, that's another W. We need to minimize that waste. We've got to reduce that waste. We need to use natural resources a lot less. I went to a beautiful photography exhibition the other day called Extraction, and I realized how much of China, you hold so many of the natural resources, and yet you are using them up often to create products that feed the appetite in other countries. And I just think, wow, sacrifice. We have to look after these natural resources. Women, right? Women in the audience probably know that gender equality is really important. The men might not think about it quite so much. So I just will say, why is women one of the key themes for me in sustainability and climate? Gender equality. Women in remote rural areas on the front line of the climate emergency are the most vulnerable. It's women and children who suffer in most crises, whether it's war, whether it's natural disasters. We need to support women. How do we do that? Education. How does everything in our supply chain help women? It's something to think about. Women who get married later, they have fewer children, they can better contribute to the economy, they are more resilient to the climate emergency. But why does it matter in business? Why do we need more women in leadership? Because diversity of leadership means you're going to make better decisions. Look at your customer base. Chances are, often as consumers, I don't know, it depends, but often those consumers, even the car industry I read that more women will be choosing which cars to buy in a few years than men. It will be more women making those consumer purchasing decisions, right? So we need to reflect that in leadership. We could do a whole session on this. Wandering, movement, migration. Massive topic for the world. As the world heats up, people will be on the move. As the middle classes grow and socio-economic uplift happens, more middle classes on the move, higher carbon footprints, aviation. It's all connected to climate. My final W, I'm not sure I've modeled it enough for you today, is wit. We need to be more funny. Why? There's so many negative messages out there. Think about it. The news, everything, it makes us shrink, contract. We need to feel optimism. We need to feel hope. We need to be made to smile. That's when communications and storytelling comes in. We need to tell better stories that inspire people, give us all hope. I talk about a word, edutainment, right? We need a lot more edutainment. That's educational, but also entertaining. I'm a mum. When my child was small, she wouldn't necessarily eat enough vegetables. She wanted to eat her spaghetti with a bolognese sauce, so more meat sauce. So in order to get her to eat that, I would have to puree the vegetables and slip it into the meat sauce. I'm sure you all have equivalents in your home. How do you get kids to eat more of the good stuff, right? It's the same with sustainability. We've got to puree in those messages about impact and share them through storytelling in ways that uplift and make people smile. A great example, I hope. I just finished, this week, I'm finishing the sustainability report for Mandarin Oriental Hotel Group. That will be live on Monday. So, sustainability report. Well, I can tell you the science and the statistics about their energy. All of the data's there. But how do you make people read it? You make it fun to read. You make it entertaining. You share all different facts. That's what we have to do. That's why often it's great to have professional storytellers. I'm trying to think of another one is Middle House, where I'm staying. I read about the Rainbow of Hope. Have you heard of the Rainbow of Hope Farmers Collective? I thought that's brilliant. It's amazing. So I went on the website because they work with them in their kitchens. I went on the website and it explained to me it's a collective it's a platform, tech, I guess, where they work with different farmers all over China. Because I know that you're the biggest importer of food in the world. Otherwise, 195 countries in the world, you're the biggest importer of food. So anything you can do, and talking about agriculture, wow, I mean, there's a sector that we need to be doing a lot better when it comes to its carbon footprint. Also, by the way, remember I said there's only 2% of the world's water is fresh water? 70% of that goes to agriculture. Wow, that needs innovation, that needs good design. That's the great thing about innovation. That's the great thing about these conferences when they're about design solutions. They give us hope. They give us hope. They share solutions. As a business, as anything, it's great to understand how can you think about what a local problem or challenge might be or a global issue. How is what you're doing, the decisions you're making, a solution? How is it helping? Think of each of yourselves as activists. I don't know if you want the word activists. Agents for change, let's call it that. You're storytellers. Every time you share a story on social media, are you edutaining? Are you sharing something that could make someone think, wow, I never thought of that. How cool. Are you sparking positive impact? Are you unlocking? I'm here to tell you about all this, and thank you so much. Thank you so much to Oriana for inviting me to be part of the program. Big difference between me and a lot of people you hear and speak. I'm not selling anything. I'm not here to represent any brand. I'm just an independent voice. I'm just sharing my ideas. Be an independent voice. Think about what you can share, not because you're paid to tell people to do that, not because you're working for a company, but genuinely be helpful and share good ideas. I'm hosting a panel discussion coming up, which will be really interesting, actually. I don't know if it's straight after this or in half an hour. Lots of different things about low impact, high experience. I'd just say I'm going to leave with you a quote from a French writer, André Gide. He said this 100 years ago, and it seems more relevant to climate than ever before. Everything that needs to be said has already been said. But since no one was listening, we need to say it again. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.